Let's talk about touch, not just the act of it, but the asterisk intention asterisk behind it, because a man isn't just reacting to your fingertips on his skin. He's responding to something deeper, the emotional message that your touch delivers. That's why certain touches feel electric, unforgettable, and even addictive. Not because of where you touched, but because of how you did it. And if you've ever wondered why a man can't seem to get enough of your presence, it might be because your touch says more than your words ever could. You see, we often think that physical attraction is about visuals, how you look, what you wear, the shape of your body. But real connection lives in the subtleties. A touch, placed with intention, has the power to disarm a man in ways he didn't even realize were possible. It bypasses the analytical part of his brain and goes straight to his emotional core. A light touch. Most people think that when it comes to touching a man, the magic happens in the obvious places. But the truth is, the areas that truly catch him off guard in the best way are the ones he's not expecting. It's not always the grand, sweeping gestures that leave a lasting impression. Sometimes it's the subtle, almost innocent ones that hit him hardest. That's where your real power lies, not in doing what everyone else does, but in reaching him in the quietest, most overlooked ways. Take the back of his neck, for example. It's not flashy. It's not the first place that comes to mind. But it's incredibly vulnerable. When your fingers gently find their way there, maybe while you're hugging him from behind or brushing his hair off his collar, it sends a quiet message that you're not just interested in his body. But in that kind of closeness is deeply intimate. It's not about seduction in the traditional sense. It's about familiarity, trust, and presence. And a man feels that difference immediately. Or think about the inside of his forearm, soft, sensitive. Underused. When you place your hand there while he's speaking, it shows that you're fully engaged. That moment of contact, however brief, creates a bridge between you. It doesn't scream for attention, it whispers, and that whisper lingers longer than anything loud ever could. It tells him, I'm here, I'm with you, I'm paying attention. In a world where so many people are distracted, that kind of focused presence is magnetic. Then there's the space just above his hip when you're standing close. Maybe your hand rests there while you're leaning in during a quiet conversation. That touch doesn't say, I need something from you. It says, I'm comfortable with you. I'm drawn to you. That's what most men crave more than anything, to feel like you want to be close to them, not because you're trying to provoke something, but because you genuinely enjoy their presence. Even something as simple as brushing his hand with yours while walking, or playfully tugging at his sleeve, can have a massive emotional impact. Why? Because it's unforced, it's spontaneous, and it reminds him of something real, something that isn't rehearsed or performative. When you reach for him in those soft, uncalculated ways, it makes him feel chosen, not chased. That's the difference. And men know it when they feel it. The truth is, most men are touched in ways that feel transactional. A hug here, a kiss there. Things that are routine, expected. But when you shift your focus to the less obvious places, and you do it with care, curiosity, and warmth, it changes everything. He doesn't just feel touched, he feels seen. And that's what makes the moment irresistible. You're not just accessing his body, you're accessing the parts of him that rarely get attention, the quiet parts, the emotional parts, the ones that crave connection without even knowing it. So don't underestimate the power of the small places. They're the ones that carry the biggest emotional weight. And when you approach touch with subtlety, awareness, and a hint of playful boldness, you don't just become unforgettable, you become the one his mind wanders back to. Not because you followed a script, but because you spoke a language his body and heart didn't even know it needed. There's something undeniably magnetic about a woman who touches a man with quiet confidence. Not hesitation, not performance, just a calm, grounded energy that says, I know who I am and I'm not afraid to connect. That's what truly gets to him. It's not just the touch itself, but the confidence behind it that makes it irresistible. Because when a woman touches a man and she's fully present, fully comfortable in her skin, she's not asking for approval. She's simply expressing her interest without apology. That's the kind of energy that draws a man in on a level he can't always explain. You might think that touch is just physical, but it's actually confidence in motion. It's your energy translated into something he can feel on his skin. That's why even the lightest brush across his arm can have a bigger impact than a dramatic gesture. When you touch him with a sense of ease, not to impress, not to test his reaction, but because you're enjoying the moment, you communicate something powerful. You're grounded, you're sure of yourself, and you're not afraid of closeness. Men are incredibly attuned to this. They might not consciously break it down, but they feel it instantly. A hesitant touch sends one message, a confident one sends another. The moment you reach for him with a relaxed hand on his chest or place your palm casually on his thigh while sitting beside him, it doesn't just create physical warmth. It creates emotional certainty. It reassures him that he's safe with you, desired by you, and that you're not afraid of showing it. And what's really interesting is that confidence in your touch doesn't mean being aggressive or dominant. It means you're not second guessing yourself. You're not wondering, is this too much? Or will he like this? You're not seeking permission. You're simply expressing presence. That subtle difference shifts the entire dynamic, because men respond deeply to women who own their space. When you touch him like you belong there, like you're comfortable in the connection, it doesn't just make him feel good. It makes him feel chosen in a way that words often fail to communicate. It's also about what you're feeling in the moment. If you're nervous, anxious, or trying to control the outcome, your touch will carry that energy. But if you're calm, playful, curious, your touch will echo those emotions. That's why a confident woman doesn't need to do much. She can lean in during a quiet moment and place her hand lightly on the back of his neck, and he'll feel something electric. Not because of where she touched him, but because of the energy she brought with her. It's her comfort with herself that makes him feel more connected to her. What makes a man crave that kind of touch isn't just the physical stimulation. It's the sense that he's being touched by someone who truly sees him, who isn't performing or trying too hard. When your touch comes from a place of authenticity, it stands out in a world full of performance. It feels rare. And rare things are irresistible, so if you ever wonder whether a certain touch will be too much or too little, shift the question. Ask yourself instead, am I present? Am I relaxed? Am I enjoying this moment with him? Because when you are, your touch becomes less about technique and more about connection. And that's the part he'll remember. The way your presence felt, the way your confidence translated into your fingertips, the way you didn't need to try to be unforgettable, you already were. One of the most overlooked truths about touch is that its power doesn't just lie in asterisk where asterisk it happens, but asterisk when asterisk. Timing isn't just a detail, it's everything. You can touch a man in the most intimate place, but if the moment isn't right, it won't have the impact you're hoping for. On the other hand, a simple graze at exactly the right time can leave him thinking about you long after the moment has passed. That's because the emotional charge of touch is often tied to context, shared energy, timing, and what's already building between you in that space. Men aren't just looking for physical contact, they're moved by the feeling of emotional rhythm. When you understand that, your touch becomes less about mechanics and more about intuition. Let's say you're laughing with him during a light, playful moment. Your hand brushes his shoulder as you lean in. That touch, in that split second of joy, anchors the feeling for him. He starts to associate your presence with warmth and connection. Not because it was bold or intense, but because it fit the moment like it belonged there. It's this kind of touch, timed in flow with emotion, that creates a lasting memory. And here's the beautiful part: you don't need to plan it, you simply need to stay present. If you're tuned into what's happening, how he's reacting, the vibe between you, the subtle cues, you'll naturally find those little moments to reach for him. A soft touch on his hand when he's opening up about something, a gentle squeeze of his arm when he's being playful. These moments aren't random, they're the emotional punctuation marks that say, "I'm with you, I see you," and that's what makes touch powerful. It's not about being constant or overly physical. It's about being strategic in the most natural, intuitive way. You don't need to constantly reach for him to create closeness. In fact, spacing things out makes each touch feel more meaningful. When your touches are rare but well-timed, they're remembered. They hit differently. It's not about doing more. It's about doing it right. This is also where your restraint becomes part of your power. A light touch after a long pause, a hand sliding down his back after a moment of silence, those things land because you let the space breathe first. That patience, that awareness builds anticipation, and anticipation is deeply attractive. It leaves room for curiosity. It allows emotion to rise without you having to force anything, and men notice that. They may not consciously say, "Wow, her timing is perfect," but they feel it in their bodies. They feel seen, they feel connected, they feel safe. That kind of emotional intelligence speaks louder than a dozen compliments. It makes them crave more, not just more of your touch, but more of your presence, because it feels attuned. It feels intentional. It feels real. So, rather than thinking you have to touch him more or find the right spot, try this instead. Slow down. Feel into the moment. Let the connection guide your movement. Because when a touch comes after a shared laugh, or during a moment of deep eye contact, or right when he's not expecting it, it lands straight in the heart, not just on the skin. In the end, your touch doesn't have to be loud or frequent to be irresistible. It just has to be honest, intentional, and timed with the rhythm of your connection. That's when it stops being physical and becomes emotional. That's when it becomes unforgettable. Touch has a way of opening doors that words often struggle to unlock. It's one of the most direct paths to emotional trust, and that's something most people underestimate. When you touch a man with presence, with genuine feeling behind it, you're not just connecting with his body, you're telling him something far more profound. You're saying, "You're safe with me," without ever needing to speak it. That's the kind of silent message that leaves an impact. Because while men may be conditioned to appear strong, self-reliant, and unfazed, the truth is, they long for moments where they can let their guard down without being judged for it. And this is where your touch becomes more than flirtation or attraction. It becomes a bridge. A simple hand resting on his chest while he's telling you about something that matters to him can signal to his nervous system that it's okay to relax, that he doesn't have to perform, that in your presence, he's allowed to be fully human. That small gesture becomes emotional permission, and it speaks far louder than an encouraging phrase ever could. Because at the end of the day, real intimacy isn't built through grand moments. It's built in the small, consistent signals that say, "You matter here." When you touch him in a way that feels calm, unhurried, and personal, he begins to associate that physical contact with emotional security. And that's when a man begins to open up in ways he rarely does. He starts to feel like he can exhale around you. Like he doesn't have to pretend or protect himself all the time. This is especially true when he's going through something, whether it's stress, uncertainty, or even just a moment of vulnerability he doesn't quite know how to process. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to say the perfect thing. But a simple, present touch, like gently tracing the back of his hand with your fingers or sitting close enough that your thigh brushes against his, can say, "I'm right here." That's when touch becomes healing. That's when it becomes something he remembers even if he doesn't speak about it. What's powerful is that this kind of touch isn't about seduction, though it might still feel sensual. It's about showing that your presence is steady, and for a man who's used to being needed but not always understood, that's rare. When he realizes that you're not just interested in his confidence or charm, but also in the moments he's unsure, quiet, or tired, that's when the bond deepens. Not because you're trying to get closer, but because your presence naturally invites that closeness. And sometimes, why not use it quietest, reaching for his hand while walking in silence? Resting your head lightly on his shoulder without saying a word, those actions say, "We don't have to fill the space, I just want to be near you." And that kind of stillness, that kind of non-verbal connection, tells a man that he's not just wanted, he's understood. So when you think about the power of touch, don't just think about chemistry or physical spark. Think about what message your touch is sending. Is it soft? Is it grounded? Is it real? Because when it is, it doesn't just build attraction, it builds trust. It tells him that you're not just showing up for the good times or the charming version of him. You're willing to be present for the quiet, honest, human parts too. And that, more than anything, is what makes your touch impossible to forget. There's a quiet but undeniable difference between a woman who's touching a man to get a reaction and a woman who touches him because she's fully rooted in her own presence. The first is reaching outward, hoping for validation or proof that she's doing something right. The second is grounded. She's not performing, she's simply expressing what she already feels. That energy is magnetic. It's the reason a man can feel completely drawn in by a touch that seems so simple, so natural, yet lingers in his mind for days. Because it didn't come from a place of seeking approval, it came from authenticity. When your touch is guided by your own sense of joy, curiosity, or connection, it speaks a different language. It doesn't say, "Do you like me?" It says, "I like this asterisk. I like you asterisk." And that kind of expression is rare. It shows a level of self-trust that instantly puts a man at ease. It makes him relax into your presence because he doesn't feel like he has to perform or impress you. You're not trying to win him. You're simply enjoying the space you share. That's the kind of woman who stays in his mind long after the moment ends. Touching a man with this kind of intention also invites him to show up more honestly, because when you're not trying to manipulate or impress, he doesn't feel guarded. He starts to match your openness. He feels seen and chosen, not for how he acts or what he says, but for who he is in that moment. It becomes less about technique and more about emotional resonance. Even the way your fingers trail across his arm, or the way you let your hand rest gently on his knee while talking. These aren't moves from a playbook. They are spontaneous, genuine gestures that say more than words ever could. This isn't about being in control. It's about being in tune with yourself and with him. The most powerful women in these moments aren't trying to impress. They're simply allowing . They allow the moment to breathe. They allow the touch to be light, natural, even playful. They allow the silence to stretch without rushing to fill it. And in that space, the connection deepens because a man feels when he's with a woman who isn't measuring her worth by his reaction. She's secure in her own presence, and that security gives him room to let down his guard. There's also something incredibly powerful about making the moment about him, but not losing yourself in the process. That balance is rare, and he can feel it when it happens. When your touch feels like a gift rather than a tactic, he receives it in a completely different way. He's not just flattered, he's moved. He feels wanted, not in a possessive way, but in a deeply accepting way. And in that space, he can show up more freely, more fully, because your touch has created safety without even trying to. And the beauty is, you don't need to overthink it. It's not about touching more or touching in a certain place or doing what someone else told you works. It's about listening to the moment, to your own instincts, and to the connection unfolding between you. When your touch comes from that space, it becomes effortlessly magnetic. He leans in not because you pulled him, but because your energy drew him. How can I make this bigger? So let your touch be an expression of who you already are, and not just more money. Because when you stay rooted in your own body, your own sense of connection, that's when he feels the most drawn to you. Not because you were trying to impress him, but because you allowed yourself to simply be with him. That's what makes your touch unforgettable.